Unprecedented wildfires. At least 24 dead, more than 12 million acres.
Lately, when one thinks of the Australian landscape, wildfires are one of the first things that comes to mind. This past summer was a particularly catastrophic bushfire season for the continent, bringing the issue to the forefront of international news. But fire is not a new force on the continent. In fact, fire has shaped life on the continent for 60 million years. In this video, I will be discussing some amazing plant species of Australia and how they have evolved to live on the flammable continent. Plants don't have the privilege of movement and are typically bound to a set location. This means that when a fire passes through an area, plants that are adapted to fire gain a competitive edge over their fire-sensitive counterparts. Plants that are adapted to fire are called pyrophytes, pyro meaning fire and phyte meaning plant. Pyrophytes are further classified into active pyrophytes, passive pyrophytes, and pyrophiles. Passive pyrophytes have adaptations that make them resistant to damage from fire. This is the most common form of fire adaptation and takes the form of mechanisms such as thick bark which protects the woody plant from fire, protective buds for post-fire stem growth, and insulating tissues with high moisture content, such as the stems of these Australian grass trees. Active pyrophytes actively promote fire through mechanisms such as highly flammable litter. By encouraging fire, they burn out less fire-tolerant competition. Finally, pyrophiles are species that need fire to reproduce. Examples of these mechanisms include resin-coated cones or seed pods that open in response to heat, and seeds that only germinate when exposed to chemicals and smoke. Most active pyrophytes and pyrophiles also exhibit passively pyrophytic traits to survive the fires they promote and depend on. This is an example of a serotinous cone. This is a jack pine, which are not Australian, but I could not find any Banksia footage. Australia is almost entirely occupied by fire-dependent biomes, earning it the title of the flammable continent. Open canopy communities dominate the landscape, with a dense rainforest that occupies only 2% of the continent due to marginalization by fire. Fire suppression and changing climate causing extreme weather patterns has led to extreme fires ravaging the landscape, but low-intensity fire is critical to maintaining many of Australia's natural systems. In Australian fire systems, a single tree family dominates the landscape, Myrtaceae, the eucalyptus family. This is in contrast to other continents' fire ecosystems, which have a more diverse tree community. The reason for this dominance is believed to be a unique adaptation that allows this family to survive fires and to flourish in the aftermath. Eucalypts have unique epicormic structures. Most trees' epicormic growth stems from buds in the outer bark, which can be easily destroyed by fire. In contrast, eucalyptus don't have buds, but strips of meristematic cells, meaning the cells are able to readily divide to form new tissues. These regions of cells are located beneath the bark, rather within it, allowing eucalypts to resprout following intense fire damage. Recently, it was discovered that these unique epicormic structures are ancestral traits of the species, and date back an estimated 60 to 62 million years. This predates the expansion of fire-dependent biomes, which occurred approximately 10 to 12 million years ago. This trait was favorable enough to be conserved as fires grew more frequent and as the family diversified to different ecosystems with different fire regimens. Not only does fire allow eucalyptus to thrive, but in turn, eucalypts promote fire. Eucalyptus leaves have follicles that secrete oils that act as a chemical defense against herbivory. These oils are also highly flammable, thus encouraging fire. One theory even hypothesizes that this defense mechanism predated the epicormic mechanism, leading to more intense and frequent fire regimens. Eucalypts are truly the backbone of Australian fire ecology. Flipping gears a little bit, the Banksia genus consists of 170 woody plants, ranging from small woody shrubs to large trees. They're known for their distinct spike flower heads and their seed pods. They're found in a variety of landscapes, ranging from sclerophyll forests to the more arid savannas. Banksia plants have seed pods that are flammable due to being heavily coated in resin, to the point that the Noongar people use these pods as torches. These pods exhibit a form of serotiny known as pyroscents, meaning their follicles release seed only once the pods undergo the extreme heat of a fire. In addition to being encapsulated by pyroscents, Banksia seeds' germination is stimulated by fire. This mechanism was found in the first known instance of Banksia, dating to 60.8 million years ago. Like the eucalypt's epicormic branches, this is interesting because it means the plant evolved with very different fire regimens than we see today, without the change of seasons. Banksia not only has fire-stimulated germination, but also has mechanisms for individuals to resprout following severe fire damage. Plants in this genus sometimes possess epicormic buds encased in thick bark, both protecting the tree from fire and allowing new branches to grow after a fire. Additionally, these plants can sprout from underground bud banks and lignotubers, thick starchy growths at the root crown containing buds that can resprout following a fire. While the serotinous pod adaptation is an ancestral trait, it is believed that the onset of these clonality mechanisms came later, with the development of seasonal fire patterns. Believed to be in response to seasonal drought at the beginning of the Miocene and the onset of seasonality, which resulted in more frequent fire due to drought conditions. This plant shows that fire was a selective force in the origin of Banksia, even before seasons existed, and continued to shape the path of its evolution for many millennia thereafter, as the plants changed with the changing fire characteristics. Individual plants have amazing adaptations to fire, but also play an important role in the greater ecosystem. Eucalyptus especially is the backbone of many fire-dependent communities in Australia, due to its abundance and flammability. Eucalypts encourage fire, and many understory plants reap the benefits. Some plants benefit from fire not directly, but due to indirect effects on the overall vegetation structure of an ecosystem. Annual grasses such as firegrass, glimmergrass, and cockatoo grass all quickly colonize following a burn due to a combination of removal of competition from perennial grasses and woody plants, ash-fertilized soil, and wind-dispersed seeds that can easily spread to burn areas. Orchids and other wildflowers benefit from fire by having seeds resistant to fire that remain dormant until they are exposed to chemicals and smoke. This allows them to remain dormant until competition is light and light is abundant. From eucalypts encouraging fire through flammable oil, Banksia having fire-activated seed pods, and grasses that seed prolifically in a fire-cleared environment, Australian plants are heavily adapted to fire. Plants can't talk, but they tell a story, and the plants we've discussed today tell a story of a fire shaping their landscape for millions of years. Adaptations to fire are as amazing as they are unique, and can inform our understanding of history and ecology.